You wanted a show? Now watch.
For 7 years, my marriage was a Swiss watch. Looked flawless on the surface, but inside, all gears grinding against lies. My name is Grant Wallace, 38 years old, industrial designer by trade, and apparently the world's most oblivious husband by circumstance. At least, that's what I thought until 3 weeks ago when my perfect little world exploded like a defective airbag. My wife Erica had just returned from her annual work conference in Miami. Marketing executives, she'd explained for the 7th consecutive year, needed to network in tropical locations. Made perfect sense, right? About as much sense as a chocolate teapot, but I'd been playing the supportive husband role so long I'd forgotten to question the script. This year felt different, though. Erica came back with demands that would make a circus performer blush. I learned some new things, she'd whispered that first night back, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite identify. Excitement? Guilt? Hard to tell in the dark. New marketing techniques? I'd asked, genuinely confused as she positioned herself in ways that definitely weren't in any business manual I'd ever read. Something like that, she'd laughed, a sound that should have sent warning bells clanging in my skull. For 2 weeks, I played along. Heck, what red-blooded American male wouldn't? My wife of 7 years suddenly wanted to recreate scenes from movies I was pretty sure she'd never watched. I'm not complaining about the enthusiasm, but when your spouse starts requesting positions that require a degree in engineering to execute safely, questions naturally arise. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning. Erica was in the shower singing some pop song about empowerment and independence, ironic, considering what I was about to discover. Her phone sat on the nightstand, buzzing with notifications like an angry wasp. Now, I'm not typically the snooping type. Trust was always our foundation, or so I believed. But 7 consecutive years of Miami conferences, combined with bedroom acrobatics that would impress Cirque du Soleil performers, had planted seeds of suspicion in even my trusting brain. The shower was still running. Steam crept under the bathroom door. I picked up her phone. No password. That should have been my first red flag right there. Who doesn't password protect their phone in 2023? Apparently cheating wives who think their husbands are too stupid to be suspicious. The text thread with her friend Maddie opened first. I started scrolling, expecting to find complaints about my snoring or requests for restaurant recommendations. Instead, I found a detailed breakdown of my marriage's destruction, complete with performance reviews that made my stomach turn. God, Maddie, PJ did that thing again last night. You know, the one I told you about? Grant could never figure that out in a million years. LOL, poor Grant. Does he suspect anything? Please, he's so clueless. I could bring PJ home for dinner and Grant would probably ask him about quarterly projections. 7 years of Miami conferences and he still believes you? Men are idiots, especially loyal ones. Grant's like a golden retriever, adorable, faithful, and completely oblivious. My hands were shaking as I scrolled further. More details, more comparisons, more evidence that my wife had been living a double life with surgical precision. PJ, Paul Jensen, her boss. The same Paul Jensen I'd met at company Christmas parties. The one who'd shaken my hand while apparently planning to screw my wife in Miami hotel rooms. The shower stopped running. I quickly screenshotted the most damning messages and placed the phone back exactly where I'd found it. My heart was pounding so hard I was surprised it didn't wake the neighbors. 7 years of marriage, and I'd been nothing more than a convenient cover story for my wife's annual adultery vacation. Erica emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, humming that same empowerment song. She looked radiant, glowing with the satisfaction of a woman who thought she'd successfully fooled her husband for nearly a decade. "Morning, honey," she said, kissing my cheek with lips that had apparently been quite busy in Miami. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I replied, which was about to become the understatement of the century. She moved toward her phone, probably expecting to find more congratulatory messages from Maddie about her successful deception. Instead, she found me holding it, screenshots already saved to my own device. The color drained from her face faster than water down a bathtub drain. "Grant, I can explain." "Can you?" I interrupted, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "Because I'm really curious how you explain 7 years of Miami conferences that were actually extended affairs with your married boss." She collapsed onto the bed like a deflating balloon. The towel slipped, but for the first time in our marriage, I wasn't interested in the view. "It's not what you think," she whispered, which had to be the most predictable response in the history of marital betrayals. "Really?" Because what I think is that my wife has been screwing her boss in Miami every year while I've been home like an idiot, missing her and counting days until she returned. Tears started flowing. Real ones, I think. Though at this point I wasn't sure Erica was capable of authentic emotion. Grant, please. It doesn't mean anything. It's just physical. You're my husband. You're my real life. And PJ is your vacation from real life? How convenient. She reached for my hand. I pulled away like she was radioactive. Don't ruin everything, she pleaded. We can work through this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll quit my job. Whatever you want. I stood up, suddenly feeling like I could see clearly for the first time in years. You already ruined everything, Erica. You ruined it 7 years ago, and then you ruined it again every single year after that. I walked toward the bedroom door, then turned back. She was still sitting on the bed, towel clutched around her, mascara running down her cheeks like black rain. Oh, and Erica? Next time you want to call your husband a clueless golden retriever, maybe don't leave your phone lying around. Even dogs eventually learn new tricks. I left her there, grabbed my keys, and drove to my friend Vince's apartment. Vince Moretti, ex-cop turned security consultant, had been my best friend since college. If anyone would know how to handle this situation, it would be him. Vince opened his door wearing yesterday's clothes and holding a cup of coffee that could probably strip paint. You look like heck, Grant. What happened? You up for some PI work? I asked. I want to know everything. Vince's apartment looked exactly like you'd expect an ex-cop's place to look. Functional furniture, minimal decoration, and enough surveillance equipment to monitor a small country. He'd been running his security consulting business for 3 years, ever since a knee injury ended his police career. Lucky for me, he'd maintained contacts throughout the city's underbelly. So let me get this straight, Vince said, refilling his coffee cup with liquid that resembled motor oil. 7 years of fake conferences and you just found out? I prefer willfully ignorant to stupid, but yeah, basically. And you want to what exactly? Divorce her? Key his car? Burn down their Miami love nest? I've been thinking about that during the drive over. What did I want? Revenge seemed too simple, too clean. Erica and PJ had spent 7 years making me look like a fool. Turnabout seemed fair play. I want them to lose everything, I said. Jobs, reputations, friends, money, everything they care about. Vince grinned. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Now you're talking my language, but we do this smart, legal, and thorough, no half measures, no criminal activity, just good old-fashioned consequences for bad decisions. We started with surveillance. That evening, while Erica was supposedly having a girls' night with Maddie, Vince and I followed her downtown. Girls' night, my foot. Unless PJ Jensen qualified as a girl, which given his soft hands and expensive manicures wasn't entirely impossible. They met at the Meridian Hotel, one of those boutique places that charge $300 a night for the privilege of pretending you're sophisticated. We watched from Vince's car as they entered the lobby like they owned the place. PJ's hand was on the small of Erica's back, guiding her toward the elevators with the confidence of a man who'd done this many times before. Room 412, Vince noted, watching through binoculars as their silhouettes appeared in a fourth-floor window. Want me to get closer? No, I said. I've seen enough. But I hadn't, really. Over the next week, we documented everything. PJ's gambling habit at Mickey's downtown, a dive bar where he apparently owed serious money to serious people, his wife's charity work, and their teenage son's honor roll achievements. Erica's lies to her coworkers about our perfect marriage. The web of deception was impressive in its complexity. The breakthrough came when I approached Mickey's bartender, a weathered man named Eddie who looked like he'd seen every form of human weakness imaginable. PJ Jensen? Eddie laughed when I mentioned the name. That piece of work owes me $2,000, plus interest. Keeps promising his big marketing bonus will cover it. His wife doesn't know about the gambling, does she? What makes you think I'd know about his wife? Because you got that look. The look of a man whose world just got turned upside down by someone else's bad choices. I slipped Eddie $50. What else can you tell me? Your wife. And don't pretend she ain't your wife. I can smell the betrayal on you. She tips better than she kisses, from what I hear. PJ brings her here sometimes, thinks he's slumming. She acts like she's afraid of catching something from the furniture. More ammunition. I was building quite the arsenal. The real game changer happened 3 days later. I was driving home from work when I noticed a black sedan following me. Not obviously, but I'd learned a few things from Vince about spotting tails. The car stayed exactly 3 vehicles back, matched my speed changes, and followed me through 2 unnecessary turns. PJ was getting suspicious. I called Vince. I've got company. Where are you? Heading toward the construction zone on 5th Street. Perfect. You remember that project you designed last year, the new shopping complex? I did remember. More importantly, I remembered every detour, every temporary road closure, and every piece of heavy machinery placement. When you design traffic flow patterns for a living, you tend to notice these things. The sedan followed me into the construction zone. Big mistake. I knew exactly which lanes were closed, which routes led to dead ends, and where the concrete barriers created perfect choke points. 3 turns later, the sedan was trapped behind a cement mixer with nowhere to go. I watched in my rearview mirror as the driver, definitely PJ's personal bodyguard, a thick-necked man named Tony, gestured angrily at the construction workers. I design these death traps for a living, I told Vince over the phone. Might as well use them. That evening, I found Maddie waiting in my driveway, Erica's loyal friend and co-conspirator, looking nervous and overdressed for a suburban confrontation. Grant, we need to talk. About what? Your role in helping my wife cheat on me for 7 years? She flinched. It's not that simple. Really? Because it seems pretty simple from where I'm standing. Look, she said, glancing around nervously. This doesn't have to get ugly. Erica made a mistake, but she loves you. If you just forget about this whole thing, maybe we can work something out. What kind of something? I know people. I could make your life difficult, professionally, socially. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Could you repeat that? The part about making my life difficult? Her face went white. You're recording this? I'm documenting this. There's a difference. You bastard, says the woman who just tried to blackmail me in my own driveway. She started to leave, then turned back. You have no idea what you're messing with, Grant. PJ has connections, real connections. And I have evidence, real evidence. Want to see who wins that contest? She drove away fast enough to leave rubber on my driveway. I sent the recording to Vince immediately. Things are about to get interesting, he texted back. He was right. The next morning, I woke up to find my car's tires slashed and a note tucked under my windshield wiper. Back off, or things get worse. Instead of calling the police, I called my insurance company and had the car towed to a shop. Then I called Vince. They want to play games? I said. Let's play. The annual neighborhood barbecue was scheduled for the following Saturday. Perfect timing. Our subdivision's social event of the year, where everyone gathered to pretend they liked each other while gossiping about everyone who wasn't there. This year, I decided to make it memorable. I spent the week preparing. Not just the usual burgers and beer, but a special presentation I'd been working on with Vince's help. Modern technology makes revenge so much more efficient than it used to be. Erica had been walking on eggshells since our confrontation, trying to act like the perfect wife while simultaneously texting PJ about their situation. I'd installed monitoring software on our home Wi-Fi, completely legal since I paid the bills, and was reading every message in real time. Grant's acting weird, she'd texted PJ. Thinks he knows something. Tony says he followed him the other day. Your husband's smarter than he looks. What do we do? Nothing. He's got no proof of anything. Wrong answer, PJ. I had proof of everything. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, warm, ideal for outdoor socializing and public humiliation. I'd invited everyone. Neighbors, Erica's coworkers, PJ and his wife Linda, even Maddie. The more witnesses, the better. By 2 o'clock, my backyard was packed. Linda Jensen looked radiant in a sundress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She was laughing with other wives, completely unaware that her husband was screwing my wife in Miami hotel rooms. Their son Jake, 17 and heading to Stanford in the fall, was helping me set up the outdoor projector screen I'd rented for the occasion. This is so cool, mister. Wallace, Jake said, adjusting the screen's position. Are you showing a movie? Something like that, I replied. More of a documentary. Erica was working the crowd like a politician, playing the perfect hostess role she'd mastered over 7 years of practice. She kept glancing at me nervously, probably wondering why I seemed so relaxed and cheerful. PJ arrived fashionably late, wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than most people's weekly salary. He shook my hand with the confidence of a man who thought he'd successfully intimidated me into silence. Grant, great party, buddy. Thanks for inviting Linda and me. Wouldn't dream of having it without you, PJ. You're such an important part of our lives. He missed the sarcasm completely. At 4 o'clock, I called for everyone's attention. Thanks for coming, everyone. Before we eat, I wanted to share some photos from this year's adventures. I'd prepared 2 presentations. The first was exactly what everyone expected. Family photos, vacation shots, the usual suburban slideshow. Everyone smiled politely as images of our perfect life flashed across the screen. And now, I announced, some special footage from Erica's recent business trip to Miami. The first image appeared, Erica and PJ entering the Meridian Hotel lobby, his hand on her back, both looking around nervously. The crowd went silent. "Whoops," I said loudly. "Wrong file." But I didn't stop the slideshow. The next image showed them in the hotel bar, sitting close together, PJ's hand on Erica's thigh. Then another, them kissing in the elevator, caught by the hotel's security camera that Vince had somehow accessed. Linda Jensen's wine glass hit the concrete patio with a crash that sounded like a loud bang. "Paul!" she screamed, her voice carrying across 3 backyards. "What the heck is that?" PJ was frantically trying to reach the projector, but Jake, bless his 17-year-old heart, was standing right in front of it, staring at the screen in shock as images of his father's affair played out in high definition. "Dad?" Jake's voice cracked. "Dad, what is this?" Erica was crying, reaching for me, trying to explain to anyone who would listen. "It's not what it looks like. Grant, please, stop this." But I wasn't stopping anything. The final image appeared, a screenshot of Erica's text messages to Maddie, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Grant's like a golden retriever, adorable, faithful, and completely oblivious. The backyard erupted into chaos. Linda was screaming at PJ, who was screaming at me, while Jake ran toward the house looking like he might vomit. Neighbors were pulling out their phones, recording everything. Erica's coworkers were backing away from her like she had a contagious disease. Maddie tried to slip away quietly, but I'd positioned Vince near the back gate specifically to prevent escapes. "Leaving so soon, Maddie?" he called out loudly. "Don't you want to stay for the Quanda session?" Linda Jensen, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, marched up to Erica and delivered a slap that could probably be heard in the next county. 7 years? Linda shouted. 7 years you've been screwing my husband while I've been raising his son and supporting his career. Linda, please, Erica sobbed. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How is it supposed to happen? In secret forever while you both laughed at your stupid spouses? PJ was trying to control the situation, but he'd lost any authority the moment his son saw those pictures. Everyone just calm down. This is a private matter. Private? I laughed. You made it public when you decided to screw my wife at company conferences for 7 years. You made it public when you had me followed and my tires slashed. You want private? You should have thought about that before you started treating my marriage like your personal entertainment. The crowd was loving it. Nothing brings a community together like witnessing the spectacular destruction of people who thought they were better than everyone else. Linda grabbed her purse and started walking toward the gate. Jake, she called to her son. We're leaving now. Where are we going, Mom? To a lawyer's office. Your father just lost everything. PJ tried to follow them, but Linda spun around with the fury of a woman who just realized her entire adult life had been a lie. Don't you dare follow us, Paul. Don't come home. Don't call. Don't exist as far as we're concerned. They left, along with most of the other guests. Within an hour, my backyard was empty except for Erica, Vince, and me. Erica was sitting at our patio table, mascara streaked down her face, looking like a woman who just watched her life implode in real time. Are you happy now? She asked quietly. Getting there, I replied. But we're not done yet. She looked up at me with something that might have been fear. What do you mean? I smiled. It probably wasn't a pleasant expression. That was just the appetizer, sweetheart. The main course is still coming. Monday morning brought consequences faster than I'd anticipated. By 9 a.m., 3 of Erica's coworkers had called in sick rather than face her at the office. By 10, videos from the barbecue were circulating on social media with hashtags like #BarbecueBetrayal and #MiamiGate. By 11, PJ's boss, a stern woman named Margaret Chen who ran the marketing department like a military operation, had called an emergency meeting. I knew this because I'd made friends with someone in their HR department. $50 and a bottle of wine had bought me a very chatty inside source who was more than happy to share office gossip about the company's most spectacular scandal in years. Margaret is furious, my source texted me, not just about the affair, but about the company liability. Apparently, PJ's been charging his Miami hotel rooms to his corporate card and claiming them as legitimate business expenses. Perfect. Adultery was a personal matter, but expense account fraud was a corporate crime. I forwarded this information to Linda Jensen's divorce attorney, whom I'd contacted through my own lawyer. Linda was moving fast. She'd filed for divorce Monday morning and was seeking emergency injunctions to freeze their joint accounts and prevent PJ from liquidating assets. My own financial situation required more delicate handling. 7 years of marriage meant community property, joint accounts, and shared assets. But I'd been preparing for this possibility since the barbecue, quietly moving money into a trust fund managed by my sister Rachel. Rachel Wallace Martinez was everything Erica wasn't: honest, loyal, and completely unimpressed by people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. She was also a certified public accountant with a law degree, which made her the perfect person to help me navigate the financial complexities of destroying my wife's life while protecting my own assets. "This is beautiful work," Rachel said, reviewing the documentation I'd gathered. "You've got evidence of adultery, conspiracy, maltreatment, and now corporate fraud. Erica's going to lose everything." "What about the house?" "Community property, but given her behavior and the fact that she's about to be unemployed, you'll probably get to buy out her half at a significant discount." "And PJ?" "PJ's screwed. Linda's attorney is going after everything: his salary, his pension, his stock options, even his car. Plus, if the company presses charges for expense account fraud, he could be looking at criminal penalties." I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. Revenge was turning out to be more satisfying than I'd expected. Wednesday brought the next phase of my plan. PJ drove a red Porsche Emergency, his midlife crisis car, purchased 2 years earlier over Linda's objections. He parked it in the same spot every day at his office building, treating it like a shrine to his own success. Vince and I paid it a visit during lunch hour. "You sure about this?" Vince asked, holding a bag of frozen shrimp. "He likes things hot and dirty, right?" I replied, opening the car's air vents. "Let's give him what he wants." We stuffed the vents full of shrimp, then added a few more under the seats for good measure. The sugar in the gas tank was probably overkill, but I was feeling thorough. I left a note on his windshield. "You like things hot and dirty, right? Enjoy the smell." Gee. The results exceeded my expectations. PJ discovered the modifications around 3 o'clock, when the afternoon sun had been baking the seafood for several hours. According to my HR source, his screams could be heard 3 floors up. He stormed into the office building, found me in the parking garage, and completely lost his mind. "You son of a witch!" he yelled, grabbing my shirt. "You destroyed my car!" I'd positioned my phone to record everything. "I destroyed your car. That's interesting. Can you prove that?" "I know it was you." "You know a lot of things, PJ. You knew my wife was married when you started screwing her. You knew I was a real person with real feelings when you decided to treat my marriage like your personal playground. You knew you were stealing from your company when you charged those hotel rooms to your expense account." He swung at me. I ducked, and his fist connected with a concrete pillar instead of my face. The sound of his knuckles hitting concrete was deeply satisfying. "You're going to pay for this," he gasped, cradling his injured hand. "No, PJ. You're going to pay. You've been paying since Saturday, and you're going to keep paying until there's nothing left." Security arrived. I'd called them myself as soon as PJ started yelling. They escorted him out of the building while I provided them with video evidence of his attack attempt. "Pressing charges?" the security chief asked. "Absolutely." That evening, I hosted a divorce party at my house. Not for my own divorce, that was still in progress, but a celebration of Linda Jensen's liberation from her cheating husband. She'd moved fast, freezing assets, securing custody of Jake, and hiring the most aggressive divorce attorney in the city. "I can't believe I wasted 20 years on that man," Linda said, accepting a glass of wine from Rachel. 20 years of supporting his career while he was screwing around behind my back. "At least you found out," I replied. "Some people never do." "How long did you know about Erica?" 3 weeks, but I suspect it was going on much longer than just the Miami conferences." Linda nodded grimly. "Paul's been taking a lot of business trips lately. I thought he was working hard to provide for our family. Turns out he was working hard, just not for your family." Jake Jensen appeared at my back door, looking older than his 17 years. "Mr. Wallace, can I talk to you?" We stepped outside onto the patio where this whole mess had started. "I wanted to apologize," Jake said quietly, "for what my dad did to your marriage." "Jake, you don't need to apologize for your father's choices." "I know, but I always liked you and Mrs. Wallace. You guys seemed happy." "We were happy. At least I was happy. Your mom's going to be happy too once she gets through this. She's already talking about going back to school. She wanted to be a teacher before she married Dad." "That's great. She should do whatever makes her happy. Jake nodded, then looked directly at me. Are you going to destroy him completely? The question caught me off guard. This was PJ's son, asking me about my plans for his father's future. Your dad made choices, Jake. I'm just making sure he faces the consequences of those choices. Good, Jake said firmly. He deserves whatever happens to him. That was the moment I realized I'd won. When your enemy's own son is rooting for your victory, the war is essentially over. The final blow came Friday afternoon. Margaret Chen called PJ into her office and terminated his employment effective immediately. The expense account fraud investigation had revealed 7 years of questionable charges, totaling nearly $50,000. The company was considering criminal prosecution. Erica lasted until the following Monday. Her position was eliminated in a corporate restructuring, corporate speak for, we can't fire you for adultery, but we can definitely fire you for being a public relations nightmare. By the end of the week, both of my tormentors were unemployed, publicly humiliated, and facing serious financial consequences. PJ was living in a studio apartment downtown, driving a 10-year-old Honda, and working for a telemarketing company. Erica had moved in with Maddie, who was rapidly growing tired of supporting her unemployed, disgraced former friend. I should have felt satisfied. Mission accomplished, revenge served, justice delivered. Instead, I felt empty. Destroying them had been easier than I'd expected, but it hadn't filled the hole their betrayal had left in my life. That was about to change. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in late October. I was working late at my home office, designing traffic patterns for a new shopping center, when I heard my dog barking frantically in the backyard. Rex was a German Shepherd mix, normally calm and well-behaved, but he was making sounds I'd never heard before, panicked, desperate yelping. I ran outside to find Erica and PJ trying to coax Rex into the back of PJ's beat-up Honda. My dog was having none of it, backing away from them while barking loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. What the heck are you doing? I shouted. Erica spun around, looking guilty and desperate. Grant, we were just kidnapping my dog? We weren't kidnapping him, PJ said, though the leash in his hand suggested otherwise. We were relocating him. To where? Somewhere safe, Erica said. Away from all this craziness. I stared at them both, these two people I'd once trusted, standing in my backyard at 9 o'clock at night trying to steal my dog. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. They'd already taken my marriage, my trust, and my peace of mind. Now they wanted to take the one thing that had remained loyal to me through this entire mess. Get out, I said quietly. Grant, please, Erica started. We just thought, get out, I roared, loud enough that lights started coming on in neighboring houses. PJ dropped the leash and backed toward the fence. This isn't over, Grant. You're right, I replied. It's not. I called Vince immediately. They just tried to take Rex. Are you serious? Your dog? Dead serious. They were in my backyard with a leash, trying to coax him into their car. That's it, Vince said grimly. No more playing nice. These people need to be stopped. We met the next morning at Riverside Park, where PJ had taken to jogging every day since losing his gym membership. His new financial situation apparently didn't include luxury fitness facilities, so he'd been reduced to running public trails like a common citizen. Vince and I were waiting on a bench near the 3-mile marker when PJ came huffing along the path. He'd gained weight since losing his job, and his expensive running gear looked ridiculous on his increasingly soft frame. Paul Jensen, I called out as he approached. He stopped, breathing hard, looking around nervously. The park was mostly empty, just a few early morning dog walkers and elderly couples enjoying the autumn weather. Grant, what do you want? I stood up slowly, Vince beside me. I want you to explain why you thought stealing my dog was a good idea. We weren't stealing him. We were protecting him. From what? From you. You've lost your mind, Grant. This whole revenge thing has made you dangerous. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. I'm dangerous. I'm not the one breaking into people's backyards at night. I'm not the one who had someone follow me through construction zones. I'm not the one who had my tires slashed. You destroyed my life. No, Paul. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. He took a step toward me, hands clenched into fists. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won? I know I've won. It's not over. There are things you don't know, connections you can't imagine. I can still hurt you. That's when I snapped. 7 months of betrayal, humiliation, and threats finally reached their breaking point. I stepped forward and slapped him across the face hard enough to leave a red handprint on his cheek. "You want to hurt me?" I said, grabbing the front of his running shirt. "You already did. You hurt me every day for 7 years while you were screwing my wife. You hurt me when you had me followed and intimidated. You hurt me when you tried to steal the one thing in my life that's still loyal to me." I shoved him backward. He stumbled and fell, landing hard on the asphalt path. "But here's the thing, Paul. I'm done being hurt. I'm done being the victim. And I'm definitely done being afraid of you." I pulled out his phone, which had fallen from his pocket when he fell, and threw it into the park's decorative pond. It landed with a satisfying splash about 20 feet from shore. "Next time you want to threaten me, remember this moment. Remember how it felt to be helpless while someone more powerful than you decided your fate." He was still sitting on the ground, holding his cheek, looking up at me with something that might have been fear. "This is attack," he said weakly. "Is it?" I replied, pulling out my own phone. "Because what I have here is video evidence of you threatening me in a public park. What you have is a red cheek and a wet phone." Vince stepped forward. "Plus, we've got 3 witnesses who saw you trespassing on Grant's property last night, attempting to steal his dog. Want to compare criminal charges?" PJ struggled to his feet, looking around the park like he was expecting backup that wasn't coming. "This isn't over," he repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes, it is," I said firmly. "It's been over since the barbecue. You just haven't accepted it yet." He walked away, limping slightly, leaving me and Vince alone by the pond. "Feel better?" Vince asked. "Getting there," I replied. That afternoon, the video of our confrontation appeared on social media. Someone had been filming from across the park, probably one of the dog walkers I'd noticed earlier. The footage showed PJ threatening me slapping him in self-defense, and him falling backward onto the path. Within hours, it had thousands of views and hundreds of comments, most of them supporting my actions. "About time someone stood up to that creep," read one comment. "Cheaters deserve whatever they get," read another. "That slap was 7 years overdue," read a third. The video went viral locally, turning me into something of a folk hero among people who'd been following the saga since the barbecue incident. I was the wronged husband who'd finally fought back, the underdog who'd refused to be victimized any longer. Erica called that evening, sobbing into the phone. "Grant, please, we need to talk. This has gone too far." "Has it?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it hasn't gone far enough." "What do you want from us? We've lost our jobs, our friends, our reputations. What more can you possibly want?" "I want you to disappear, Erica. I want you and PJ to find somewhere else to live, somewhere else to work, somewhere else to exist. I want you gone from my life completely. We can't just disappear. This is our city too." "Then make it not your city. Because every day you stay here is another day I'm reminded of what you did to me." She was quiet for a long moment. "And if we leave?" "If you leave, I'll stop. No more videos, no more public humiliation, no more consequences. You can start over somewhere else and pretend this never happened. You promise?" "I promise, but if you stay, if you keep trying to insert yourselves into my life, I'll make what's happened so far look like a warm-up act." She hung up without saying goodbye. 3 days later, I learned that Erica and PJ had both accepted job offers in Phoenix, Arizona. They were leaving town within the month, relocating to the desert where they could rebuild their lives away from the consequences of their actions. I should have felt victorious. They were leaving, admitting defeat, giving me exactly what I'd demanded. Instead, I felt cheated. After everything they'd put me through, they were getting to escape. They were getting a fresh start while I was left behind to pick up the pieces of my destroyed marriage. That's when I realized the game wasn't over yet. There was still one more move to make, one final scene to play out before I could truly claim victory. And it was going to be spectacular. The Copper Club was downtown's attempt at sophistication. Exposed brick walls, craft cocktails, and a clientele that thought paying $20 for a whiskey made them cultured. It was exactly the kind of place PJ would choose for what he probably imagined would be our final confrontation. He texted me that morning. "Copper Club, 9 p.m., time to end this like men. Like men. As if there was something masculine about cheating on your wife with someone else's spouse for 7 years. As if there was honor in threatening and intimidating the people you'd wronged." PJ's definition of masculinity apparently included adultery, corporate fraud, and attempted dog theft. I arrived at 8:30, wanting to scope out the territory before our meeting. The club was moderately busy for a Thursday night. Young professionals pretending to network, older divorced guys hunting for their next mistake, and a few actual couples who seemed to genuinely enjoy each other's company. Vince was already there, positioned at the bar with a clear view of the entire room. We'd agreed he'd stay out of the confrontation unless things got physical, but his presence was reassuring. PJ arrived precisely at 9, wearing a suit that had probably cost more than my car payment back when he could afford expensive clothes. Now it looked like he'd slept in it, wrinkled and slightly too big for his increasingly soft frame. He spotted me immediately and walked over with the swagger of a man who thought he still had some power in this situation. "Grant," he said, sitting down across from me without being invited. "Thanks for coming. Wouldn't miss it. What's so important that it couldn't wait until you moved to Phoenix?" He flinched slightly. Word traveled fast in our social circles. "That's what I wanted to talk about. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. We're both adults here. Surely we can work something out." "What kind of something?" "A truce. You stop the maltreatment, the public humiliation, the social media campaigns. In return, Erica and I disappear quietly. No drama, no final scenes, no more complications." I sipped my beer, considering his proposal. "And why would I agree to that?" "Because you've won, Grant. You got what you wanted. We've lost our jobs, our reputations, our lives here. What more do you need?" "What I need," I said slowly, "is for you to understand something. This was never about winning or losing. This was about consequences. We're facing consequences. We're leaving town, starting over with nothing. How is that not enough?" "Because you still don't get it." I leaned forward, looking directly into his eyes. "You think this is about revenge? You think I'm some scorned husband who went crazy and decided to destroy your lives for fun? Aren't you?" "No, Paul. I'm a man who discovered that 2 people he trusted had been lying to him for 7 years. I'm a man who realized that while he was being loyal and faithful and honest, his wife and her lover were treating his marriage like a joke." I stood up, my voice getting louder. "I'm a man who got tired of being the punchline in other people's stories." The conversation was attracting attention from nearby tables. Good. I wanted witnesses for this. "So you destroyed us," PJ said bitterly. "No," I replied. "I exposed you. There's a difference." Semantics. "Truth." He stood up too, his face flushed with anger and alcohol. "You self-righteous bastard. You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a vindictive a-hole who couldn't handle the fact that his wife found someone better." That's when I smiled. Really smiled for the first time in months. "Better?" I laughed. "Paul, you're unemployed, divorced, living in a studio apartment and driving a car older than your son. You're about to flee the state like a criminal avoiding prosecution. In what universe does that make you better than anyone?" At least I took what I wanted instead of just accepting whatever scraps life threw at me. "You took what wasn't yours. You stole 7 years of my marriage, 7 years of my trust, 7 years of my life. You're not a man who took what he wanted. You're a thief who got caught." He swung at me then, a wild, drunken punch that I saw coming from across the room. I ducked easily, and his fist connected with nothing but air. The momentum carried him forward, and he stumbled into our table, knocking over glasses and drawing the attention of everyone in the club. Security was moving toward us, but I wasn't done yet. "This is what you are, Paul," I said loudly enough for the entire room to hear. "This is who you've always been. A middle-aged man throwing punches in a bar because he can't handle the consequences of his own actions." "Shut up," he gasped, trying to regain his balance. "A man who cheats on his wife, steals from his company, and then blames everyone else when his house of cards collapses." I said, "Shut up." A man whose own son is ashamed of him, whose ex-wife celebrates their divorce, whose lover is only with him because she's as pathetic and desperate as he is. He lunged at me again, but the bouncers reached him first. 2 large men in black shirts grabbed his arms and started dragging him toward the exit. "This isn't over," he shouted as they hauled him away. "You hear me, Grant? This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I called back. "It's been over for months. You just finally figured it out." The club returned to normal surprisingly quickly. A few people stared. A few others went back to their conversations. And within minutes, it was like nothing had happened. Vince appeared at my elbow. "Feel better now?" "Getting there," I said. "But we're not quite done yet." "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. "Weather report says thunderstorms tonight. Perfect timing." 2 hours later, I was sitting in my living room when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Erica and Maddie standing on my porch, both soaked from the rain that had started falling around 11 o'clock. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "Grant," Erica said, shivering in her inadequate jacket, "we need to talk." "About what?" "About ending this. About moving forward. About giving us all a chance to heal." "Us?" I looked at Maddie, who was trying to make herself invisible behind Erica. "There is no us, Erica. There hasn't been an us for 7 years." "Please," she said. And for the first time since this whole thing started, she sounded genuinely desperate. "Can we come in? Just for a few minutes?" I stepped aside and let them enter, but I didn't offer them seats or towels or any of the basic courtesies I would have extended to actual guests. "What do you want?" "We want to make a deal," Maddie said, speaking for the first time. "A real deal, with terms we can all live with." "I'm listening." "We leave town," Erica said. "Phoenix, like you wanted. We start over, new jobs, new lives, completely separate from you." "And in return?" "You stop," Maddie said. "No more videos, no more social media, no more public humiliation. You let us disappear quietly." "And if I don't agree?" They looked at each other nervously. "Then we fight back," Erica said quietly. "We hire lawyers, we file maltreatment charges. We make this as ugly and expensive as possible for everyone involved." I stared at them both. These two women who had conspired to destroy my marriage, standing in my living room making threats and demands like they had any leverage left. That's when I started laughing. Really laughing. Deep belly laughs that made my sides ache. "You want to fight back?" I gasped between laughs. "You want to make this ugly?" They nodded, looking confused by my reaction. I walked over to the living room window and opened the curtains. Outside, I could see lights on in houses throughout the neighborhood. People were awake, despite the late hour and the storm. "Ladies," I said, still chuckling, "let me show you something." I walked to my home security panel and pressed a button. Immediately, every light in the house came on, and an alarm started blaring. Not the burglary alarm, but the emergency beacon I'd had installed specifically for this moment. Within seconds, neighbors started appearing at their windows. Front porch lights came on throughout the subdivision. People began emerging from their houses, despite the rain, drawn by the alarm and the lights. "What are you doing?" Erica asked, panic creeping into her voice. "I'm giving you the audience you deserve," I replied, opening the front door. By now, at least 20 neighbors had gathered in the street, including Linda Jensen and her son Jake, who were living in a rental house 2 blocks away while their divorce was finalized. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, my voice carrying across the crowd, "I'd like you to meet Erica Wallace and Maddie Chen, the masterminds behind 7 years of adultery, deception, and betrayal." "Grant, no," Erica whispered, but I was just getting started. "These are the women who thought they were smarter than everyone else? Who thought they could lie and cheat and manipulate their way through life without consequences?" The crowd was growing. More neighbors, drawn by the commotion and the opportunity to witness the final chapter of our neighborhood's most entertaining scandal. These are the women who called me a golden retriever, adorable, faithful, and completely oblivious, who laughed about how easy it was to fool the stupid husband while they were destroying his marriage. Thunder cracked overhead, and lightning illuminated the scene like nature's own spotlight. "But here's what they never understood," I continued, my voice rising above the storm. "Golden retrievers are loyal until you betray them, and then they bite." I turned to face Erica and Maddie, who were backing toward the door like trapped animals. "You want to fight back? You want to make this ugly? Go ahead. File your lawsuits. Hire your lawyers. Spend what little money you have left trying to convince a judge that the wronged husband is the real villain in this story." I gestured toward the crowd of neighbors, all of whom had witnessed their humiliation firsthand. But remember this moment. Remember standing in my living room, soaked and desperate, trying to negotiate your way out of the consequences of your own actions. Remember the look on these people's faces when they see you for what you really are. "You're crazy," Maddie whispered. "No," I said calmly, "I'm done." I walked to the front door and held it open, rain blowing in from the storm. "Get out of my house, get out of my neighborhood, get out of my life. And if you ever come back, if you ever try to contact me again, if you ever even mention my name to anyone, I'll make what happened tonight look like a warm-up act." They ran. Actually ran through the rain toward Maddie's car while 20-plus neighbors watched and several people recorded everything on their phones. I stood in my doorway watching their taillights disappear into the storm, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Jake Jensen appeared at my elbow, grinning despite the rain. "Mr. Wallace?" "Yeah, Jake." "That was awesome." I smiled back at him. Yeah, it was. The crowd began to disperse, neighbors heading back to their warm, dry houses, but not before several of them stopped to shake my hand or pat me on the back. Linda Jensen gave me a hug that lasted longer than was probably appropriate, but I didn't mind. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me that sometimes the good guys do win." I closed the door, turned off the lights, and sat down in my living room with Rex at my feet. The storm was still raging outside, but inside everything was calm. My phone buzzed with a text from Vince. "Saw the video already? You magnificent bastard. It's over, isn't it?" I typed back, "Yeah, it's over." And it was. Erica and PJ left for Phoenix the following week quietly and without fanfare. Maddie moved back in with her parents in another state. The neighborhood returned to normal, except now I was something of a local legend, the man who'd fought back and won. I never heard from any of them again. No lawsuits, no maltreatment, no attempts at revenge. They simply vanished from my life as completely as if they'd never existed. 6 months later, I sold the house and moved across town to a smaller place with a bigger yard for Rex. I started dating again, carefully but with hope. I even joined a support group for people who'd survived infidelity, where I met others who'd been through similar experiences, but none of them had handled it quite like I had. "Most people just get divorced and move on," one woman told me after I'd shared my story. "You turned it into performance art." Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd gone too far, been too thorough, too public in my revenge. But I didn't regret any of it. For 7 years, I'd been the victim of other people's choices, the target of other people's jokes, the fool who didn't know what everyone else knew. For 6 months, I'd been something else entirely. The man who fought back, the husband who refused to be a victim, the golden retriever who finally showed his teeth. And in the end, that made all the difference.